President Donald Trump delivered the first State of the Union of his second term Tuesday night at the U.S. Capitol. The speech came days after the Supreme Court struck down his signature global tariffs, as tensions with Iran escalate and as his approval ratings hover near their lowest levels of either term. At nearly 1 hour and 47 minutes, it became the longest State of the Union address in modern history. These are the 5 key takeaways from the State of the Union speech.
Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, our nation is back, bigger, better, richer, and stronger than ever before.
Trump opened with maximalist language, a classic framing device. The goal? Establish dominance, momentum, inevitability. Economic growth has continued, but GDP growth remains within historical norms. Inflation has cooled from its 2022 peak, though it did not begin at record levels when Trump took office this term. Consumer prices remain elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels.
And we are going to keep it that way. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election. Think of that, 1 year. Boosting pensions, 401ks, and retirement accounts for the millions and millions of Americans. They're all gaining. Everybody's up, way up. In 4 long years, the last administration got less than $1 trillion in new investment in the United States. And when I say less, substantially less. In 12 months, I secured commitments for more than $18 trillion pouring in from all over the globe.
This was one of the most eye-catching claims of the night. The number is designed to overwhelm. It exceeds the annual GDP of nearly every country on Earth except the US and China. There is no public federal accounting confirming $18 trillion in new investment commitments. Even combining public and private announcements, the figure appears vastly inflated. For context, total US GDP is roughly $28 trillion annually.
More Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. Think about that. Any time in the history of our country, more working today. And 100% of all jobs created under my administration have been in the private sector.
Technically powerful, politically strategic. It sounds like historic prosperity. This is numerically true in raw terms, but misleading without context. The US population has grown, so total employment naturally rises over time. The unemployment rate has ticked upward during parts of 2025, and job growth last year was weaker compared to post-pandemic rebounds.
After 4 years in which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far.
This line reframes immigration as an existential failure under Democrats and a total victory under Trump. It sets up a stark electoral contrast for 2026. Border encounters have declined significantly compared to peak levels in 2023 to 2024. However, crossings had already begun falling late in President Biden's term. Strongest in history is subjective and not supported by long-term comparative metrics.
In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States.
This is absolute language. 0. Absolute claims tend to energize supporters but carry high factual risk. There is no evidence supporting a literal 0 figure. Border Patrol continues to record encounters and processing. Enforcement patterns changed, but entry attempts and asylum processing have not ceased entirely.
Dominicana? ¿Dónde eres? ¿Dónde eres? Ecuador. Brazil.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
This was not a policy line, it was a political setup. Trump paused deliberately after saying it, turning toward Democrats and challenging them to stand and applaud. Republicans rose immediately. Democrats remained seated. The visual contrast was the point. It created a made-for-television moment designed to frame one party as defending citizens and the other as defending undocumented immigrants. That's when the tension broke. Representative Ilhan Omar shouted back at the president, calling out what she described as lies about immigration enforcement and the consequences of federal operations in her state. Witnesses in the chamber reported her yelling, "You're lying," and "You've killed Americans," in response to Trump's claims about border security. The exchange between Trump and Ilhan Omar became one of the defining images of the night. It symbolized the larger divide in American politics: immigration framed as national defense versus immigration framed as human rights and due process. For Trump, the confrontation reinforced his law and order narrative heading into the 2026 midterms. For Omar, the interruption signaled resistance to rhetoric she views as harmful to immigrant communities. And for viewers at home, it underscored how the State of the Union has evolved, from a speech about the state of the country to a live stage for partisan combat.
But the good news is that almost all countries and corporations want to keep the deal that they already made, right, Scott? Knowing that the legal power that I, as president, have to make a new deal could be far worse for them, and therefore they will continue to work along the same successful path that we had negotiated before the Supreme Court's unfortunate involvement. So despite the disappointing ruling, these powerful, country-saving, it's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in, peace-protecting. Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time. They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time-tested and approved.
This was striking. After the Supreme Court struck down his global tariff authority, Trump signaled he intends to move forward through executive mechanisms instead of legislative compromise. The Constitution gives Congress authority over tariffs. While presidents have been delegated limited powers, the court's ruling complicates future executive-only trade actions.
Goes by, I believe, the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
This line reframes tariffs as painless. Foreigners pay, Americans benefit. Economists overwhelmingly agree tariffs are paid primarily by U.S. importers and consumers through higher prices. Historically, tariffs funded government before the income tax existed, but today's federal budget is far too large to be sustained primarily by tariffs without dramatic cost increases.
America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue. They're starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again. And are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference
This attempts to reconcile Trump's previous claim that Iran's program was obliterated with current intelligence concerns. U.S. intelligence assessments indicate Iran retains nuclear enrichment capacity. Whether it was fully wiped out remains disputed among defense analysts.
My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen.
This is red line language. It leaves room for sanctions, covert action, or military strikes. Iran is designated by the U.S. as a state sponsor of terrorism. Whether it is the #1 sponsor is a political characterization rather than a measurable ranking.
The reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things, you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat, they have cheated, and their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John.
This mirrors rhetoric from 2020. It primes supporters to question unfavorable outcomes in advance of the 2026 midterms. There is no evidence of widespread fraud in recent federal elections. Numerous courts, including those with Trump-appointed judges, rejected fraud claims after 2020. Trump has pushed for stricter voter ID laws and federal election oversight measures. Legal scholars debate the constitutional scope of federal involvement in state-run elections.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
This frames opposition as anti-security, a powerful electoral tactic. Election systems are decentralized across states. Security reviews by DHS and state officials have found no evidence of systemic fraud altering outcomes. Even as the last applause faded in the House chamber, one fact stood out. The topic many wanted to hear about, the Jeffrey Epstein files, was entirely absent from the address itself. Despite Democratic lawmakers bringing survivors of Epstein's abuse as guests and wearing symbolic "release the files" pins, President Trump made no mention of the controversy in his speech, leaving a glaring gap in a night otherwise filled with assertions about security, strength, and success. That silence came against the backdrop of a law signed by Trump last year requiring full release of the Epstein-related documents and an ongoing fight over how much of those records the Justice Department has actually disclosed. Critics argue millions of pages remain redacted, and that some allege the department withheld files that include references tied to Trump, a claim that has fueled intense political pressure and bipartisan demand for accountability. For much of the MAGA movement, the Epstein files were supposed to be a rallying issue, one that would expose hidden networks and burnish Trump's tough-on-crime reputation. Instead, by leaving the topic unaddressed at the State of the Union, Trump allowed it to become a political liability instead of an asset, reinforcing criticisms that he's evading a serious reckoning. Tonight's speech was designed to project confidence and control, but the Epstein files controversy, and Trump's notable avoidance of it, may linger longer in public memory than any of the policy boasts he laid out.
Ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
I'm an Epstein survivor from 2004-2005. I was 17 years old when I met Jeffrey Epstein. Back then I was a teenager, but I was really a child. I was looking for an adult to help protect me from what felt like monsters, only to find that the monster was him all along. Now I look to the government for help, and they're no better. Gaslighting and manipulating victims, the same tactics as Jeffrey and Ilhan. The DOJ assures us that they're focused on our safety, but only to exploit us further. There are two cases happening here, two cases of abuse. The first case is one that we endured while we were ensnared in the largest sex trafficking ring that this country has known to date. And the second is the abuse of our government. They're covering everything up and protecting power, not the young and the vulnerable. As we prepare to attend the State of the Union, survivors and this country have so many questions that need to be answered. The first one is, where are the rest of the files? The truth must come out. Why are there no investigations when there are plenty of people in these files to investigate? Have we read them? Why is the FBI director out there partying like a college kid when he should be investigating the vast criminal enterprise? This administration needs to do better. How can anybody feel safe in this country when our president's sympathies are going to the former Prince Andrew and not to survivors? There are a few things that really need to be done immediately. First is the release of all of the files, which we know. Next is to hold accountable those who continuously exploit. And the third is to pass Virginia's bill. We need to pass Virginia's bill because justice should never, ever expire. Release the damn files.